My name is Claire Garou, and I am a photographer, and I'm also a professor in the art department at Seattle University. I love photography as a medium. I love looking at photographs. I've always loved to look at photographs. I've been drawn to art always, though it wasn't a big part of my sort of family focus or anything, or we lived in tiny little towns in Oregon. But I was always drawn to drawing things. I drew things, and I liked art, and I don't know why, I just do. And photography, I think it felt accessible to me. As I became more and more into photography, I realized that it was all the choices I was making that created the impact in the photograph, and it sometimes had very little to do with what was actually in front, right? So I learned that I could manipulate through my framing and my printing and the way I handled the negative and the craft of it. I could really create this sort of other thing besides what was literally in front. And I love that sort of ability to paint literally with light. I just started doing all these portraits of punks, and I photographed the same people. I mean, a lot of people, but the same people, several times over the years. We do these sessions, and I mention that because it indicated right away that I'm kind of a binge subject shooter. So I think going to graduate school was a great thing, and photographing punks, that portfolio is how I got in. But while I was in graduate school, I started this other project and binge subject that I am. I met these two women, Celie and Tucci, and they were part of Seattle's really large subculture of SM dykes. So I started getting to know Celie and Tucci, and I started photographing them. And as I got to know them, those photographs became more and more intimate. And then I started photographing their extended family of aunts and uncles and grandparents and brothers and sisters and slaves and masters. And that project lasted for 6 years. And that project was also picked up. I hadn't put it out there, but word of mouth spread, and Konkursbuch in Germany, Claudia Gerka, who is the head of Konkursbuch, saw some pictures that I had left with friends in Paris, and she contacted me, and things just happened, and she said she was interested in the work, and she flew me to Germany, and I took the manuscript and what I had to that point, and she asked if she could publish a book. So my first book was published in 1996. In 1994, I got this phone call, and it was from a close friend who lived in Paris and who had been working in Cuba. He was a folklorist. His name was Elliot. And Elliot called me to ask if I could go to Cuba and photograph an Afro-Cuban ritual. And my very first full day in Cuba was spent in the middle of this amazing forest, photographing these amazing people who were performing an Afro-Cuban ritual. And it lasted for about 14 hours. And I didn't speak Spanish, and I really had no idea what was going on. But the remaining time I stayed in Cuba, and the people I met, and what I saw of that ritual, it just fascinated me, so I was kind of hooked. Eventually in 2000, we met Santiago Castaneda Vera, and we got to know him. He was extremely generous with us and became our teacher and also our godfather in the religion. And he and his extended family became the subject of our book together. It's called Crossing the Water. It was published by Duke. It came out in 2007. That book was a real turning point for me, and it was a great collaboration with both Santiago, our godfather, and Annika. And I really enjoyed doing that project, but I'm still doing work on Afro-Cuban religion, and I hope to eventually finish another book that involves the very same person that I met originally in '94, the practitioner in the forest in El Monte. Um, so we'll see how that works. It's been a long time coming. When I think about, you know, how fortunate I've been um, to be able to pursue projects and to be able to make a living, even um, with photography, and to be able to teach, which is such a gift. I love to teach. I think maybe one of the things that is most pivotal for me in my career is having walked into the front door of PCNW. That fed me with a community, and eventually I became the director of education at PCNW, and I left commercial work because I realized that I really love to teach. So PCNW enabled that. So I think if I were to think about one thing that I'm really grateful for, it's right here. Yeah. And we're really lucky to work with them.
Cut. Yay!
The camera is like a bridge for me. And I think that's what it is, right?